would like to very much welcome all of you to the Fairbanks North Star Borough Comprehensive Roads Plan Open House. So if this is not enough excitement for you from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock today, there is another opportunity to join us at 6 o'clock with a different crowd of folks, ideally. So I'm going to ask my good friend Molly here to move the slides along for us. So we're going to start this evening with a quick welcome and project overview. So to get us started, wanted to first introduce our project team. So on the line with us, and hopefully you can see these folks clearly, are our co-project managers from the Fairbanks North Star Borough, Brittany Smart and Kellen Spillman. And also, hopefully in view or on the line with us are the primary consultant for this project, PDC engineers, and you can see the lead, Patrick Carter there, or Pat Cotter is on. And then our team at Agnew Beck Consulting are helping to support PDC in their work and really leading the public involvement piece of this effort. And so my name is Shelley, and also on the line with my team is Molly and Aubrey. So we're excited to be working on this effort and also come from you from the land of the Denina. And so excited for this chance to work with all of you this evening. So just a couple of comments about how you can provide input during the meeting. So we'll likely, I see some more folks are joining us, which is really exciting. There's a lot of opportunities this afternoon. So first, you should all know that the meeting is being recorded, and we'll post this to the project website later. So I did get an opportunity to talk with some of our steering committee members earlier and others that couldn't make this evening, but are excited to see the results. And so there will be a chance to do that and for all of you to share that later. We do also have the Q&A function in Zoom is open for comments or questions. And so we'll definitely be monitoring that throughout the process. So excited to get your feedback there. As you have comments or questions about the slides or things that you brought that you have on your mind this evening. And we have, with those opportunities to get your feedback, are really also a series of questions and polls. So we have a number of survey questions that we want to get your input on this evening. And so we're excited to see what you have to say. And then we do, through this process, just to maintain some structure, we do have everybody muted and your videos off. We're excited for our next series of meetings and the opportunity to meet with folks in person in the community, ideally at future engagements. So thanks for your patience with that, and excited for the 23 folks that have joined us. Appreciate your participation. So we have a first poll question for you. So excited to get all of our participants, and I will say, even if you are a Borough staff that have joined us for this conversation as an observer, we're excited to, you're also a resident. So we're excited to get everybody's feedback on these first poll questions. So you're going to see a number of different opportunities to say, where is your primary residence? Here comes a poll, everybody. So you should see on your screen now, and you need to scroll down so you can see the full list of options to select where is your primary residence within the borough. And once everybody's had a chance to fill that out, you will see, we'll have an opportunity to see the results. Okay, so it looks like I'm starting to see the results come in right now. So I've got 2 of 16 people that have submitted something. Excited to see other folks. I did see your comment, LJ, so hopefully it's open now and functioning. Molly, can you address some of the questions that folks are having with the survey?
Yeah, so once you click on your answer option, there is no submit button. So as long as it lets you click your answer choice, then you have participated in the survey. We can see on our end how many survey folks have responded to the survey, and then we can broadcast the results once everyone has voted. So as long as it lets you click, it is working. The reason why you see it broken out is because the Zoom poll function only limits us to 10 answer options, and we had more than 10. So that you want to scroll down to see that full list, but you only should be selecting one answer option from that list. So thanks everyone for the questions. Sorry for the confusion.
Still only seeing four folks that have participated, and maybe it's more painful than not. So if you are, you can also add your community into the Q&A function. So just let us know where you're coming from. So excited to get your feedback. Okay, we're going to keep cruising along just in case it didn't work. Esther, yay! I see people starting to respond in the Q&A. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate the adaptability. So I see some folks from Esther and Farmers Loop and Fox. And then I'm just going to end this poll and share the results, even though we know it's not representative of everybody that's here this evening. So we have someone from Chena Ridge College, Farmers Loop, Two Rivers, Eielson Air Force Base, Harding Birch Lake. Wow. Okay. So we kind of, even in that small sample, we kind of hit multiple parts of the borough. So thanks everybody for your responses there. City of Fairbanks. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. And yeah, and keep them coming in that Q&A if you want to share with us where you're coming from. So let's take ourselves to the next. Oh, thanks, Dave. Okay. We have a next poll, and so maybe we have better luck with this next poll. So we do have a question for you. What do you think? We're going to ask for your responses and to the statement, my local neighborhood roads are safe. So when you see that question, what response do you have? And I'm about to launch that poll. Here's our next opportunity to try our hand at a poll. Wrong question, folks. Here it comes. Okay, so you should see on your screen, my local neighborhood roads are safe. Okay, much better. See those responses coming in fast and furious. So that's great. Okay, so we've got a handful of folks that have responded. Give it maybe 15 more seconds. And then we have a second question for you. Okay, here come the results. Okay, this is what's coming in right now with this small group of folks that have gathered this evening, but we've got 50% of you, 7 of you saying that you agree my local neighborhood roads are safe. And if you combine that, 10 folks that agree essentially to include strongly agree with that comment. Some folks that are neutral on that question, 1 person, and then we have a few folks that are disagreeing with that statement. So we do have a related question and asking it just a little bit differently. Here is another question, and then we're going to tell you a little bit about what this roads planning process is all about. Here comes that next question. So now we're talking, moved out of the safety topic to the topic of well-connected. Okay, maybe 10 more seconds on this one. Any final thoughts out there? I see 24 participants. It would be awesome to see 24 responses. And here we go. Here's the results from that subset of folks. Okay, well, we've got the majority in the agree, either agree or strongly agree. So 53% in that agree, 33% strongly agree. And then we do have a couple of folks that are either disagree or strongly disagree. So let's continue to talk about how this plan addresses your thoughts and can continue to get your input on safety and well-connected roads. So before we do that, and an important recognition is the folks, some of whom have joined us this evening, is the steering committee that's helping to guide us through approximate quarterly meetings to help guide this project in this process, which includes input on how we do the public involvement part of this work, but also the data collection and the technical aspects of the plan. So you can see the steering committee is really meant to be a representative group of folks that represent everything from transportation experts to our developer community, our military partners, of course, fire and safety partners, and other folks that have businesses that are impacted by local roads. So for just to talk a little bit briefly about the project purpose. So this process is really about updating the 1991 comprehensive road plan. And you can see that a little image of that to the right. And really, if we do a quick little synopsis of what the main intentions are, it's really to improve the current and future road network, and really do that by identifying and planning for the appropriate and strategic road corridors and connections and access points that many of you think about all the time. You drive those local roads. So what are those pieces and what should we plan for in the future road system in the borough? And ultimately, it's really about creating a safer and better connected road network. Related to that is just talking about a little bit, how and why this project is important. So this project is really about creating a plan that aligns with what's happening today, but also the future Fairbanks North Star Borough. So any changes or shifts that happen, and really the adaptability that happens with the changes in the borough. And we're really doing that by having conversations like this one this evening with the community and with other experts, including some of the technical experts that you saw on that list of steering committee members, road service area commissioners, and others that really have a very good understanding of both the lands and the road pieces and transportation pieces. It's also really about assessing how the borough has and is projected to grow and change. And it really is that opportunity to think about and respond to population change. We know that there's been growth in the greater North Pole area with the incoming F-35 personnel and related growth even prior to that personnel arriving. That growth has happened at a fast pace at specific areas within the borough. And this is the opportunity to really adapt and adjust to that and plan for that. This is really a process that includes really using improved information that was not available to us when the 1991 plan was developed. So that's the opportunity to really incorporate data on permafrost and wetlands and other data that was not part of that earlier process. And then it's really about building from any of the successes and lessons learned from the 1991 plan. And actually, my good friend Kellen is going to talk about that a little bit later in what we're sharing here this evening. So we do have a project timeline. So when we anticipate really finalizing and adopting the plan, and that's way out to spring of 2022. But we've really initiated the process by bringing together the steering committee earlier this spring and have been conducting some initial research to get a handle on kind of what the existing conditions look like today. And then through the summer, as evident through this opportunity with the open house and then other events that are planned for later this summer, is really a chance to kind of learn and listen and really develop a vision and goal for the plan and then prepare related maps. And then we have that kind of review process that happens with drafting the plan in the fall or winter. And then ultimately, as mentioned here, really adopting and finalizing the plan in the spring. Okay, so what does this plan actually do? So let's click through these fairly quickly, Molly. So the plan guides and plans for the future corridors and land access. So we talked about that a little bit earlier, but specifically, this really helps to facilitate the securing of legal rights of way to help us do that type of physical road development. And through the land subdivision process is a really important point to make here. It's also that opportunity for assigning a purpose for a future road corridor. So that's what it does do through something called a functional classification system. And that is tied to the borough's subdivision development process. We're going to talk about that and give some examples here in just a moment. And then this is really the plan also is this opportunity for encouraging support between the borough and with the borough and the developer community, and this chance to really work together to create a road system that does multiple things. It really protects the health, safety, and well-being of the community. And then just to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that functional classifications piece, and obviously Kellen should weigh in here if I get off track, but this really the chance to ask us kind of a simple question of like, what's the appropriate road and where should it go and what should it do? So this information here gives you kind of a play-by-play of what the borough's existing classifications are and really how those are defined in Title 17. And we are, without going into a lot of technical pieces, this is really, again, about what is the appropriate road that can really create the type of access and safety and connectedness that will create for the most robust and really responsive and adaptive road network. And so you can see mobility and land access are kind of some of those key drivers and pieces for making those decisions. And then just a couple more examples that dive into the specifics about those different types of classifications. So moving on to our next slide, you can see, if you just want to click straight through, Molly, you can see some examples here. That lovely kind of pastel turquoise color is broadly local roads that are defined here with additional collectors and major collectors. And so you can see each of these has a very specific purpose for the types of traffic and the flow and the access. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this as we get into some examples from the 1991 plan, which I think is just around the corner. So if you want to take us to, so really I should just reiterate that our team, part of our team's work is really to evaluate and reevaluate the borough's current functional classification system and to think about, are those the right buckets and really how should those be defined? And then further, where should those go in local or neighborhood roads and otherwise? And then some other roads plan considerations include things like topography, all the environmental constraints and pieces that are critical to development projects, soils and water features, of course, land ownership, public-private land ownership. Some of the other pieces I've already mentioned are the existing rights of way. And then really clearly public process, we should also almost shift that to the very top of this list, because getting your input about what's working or not working in your communities and your neighborhoods is critical. And then zoning and the comprehensive plan that really identifies preferred residential areas. And that comp plan, if you recall, is that future look at how do we want to use those lands in 10 years, 15, 20 years out. This is the opportunity through the roads plan to really respond to that with the right transportation corridors that can allow the type of access that's preferred in those residential areas, or that makes sense in those residential areas. You can take us to the next slide. So there are several things that the roads plan does not do. So we wanted to mention a couple of those, and knowing very well that folks have a lot of things on their mind when we're talking about roads in the borough. Well, just to be clear and all be on the same page, that the roads plan does not allow the borough to acquire or take private property or force roads through private property. And I think that's a key concern that often is raised by residents and business owners and property owners. So wanted to be clear about that. And further to just emphasize that corridors that are in the plan are really only dedicated on private property at the time owners subdivide their land. And so again, Kellen can do a deeper dive on this as we need to, but certainly I know that that's a key concern. And so we wanted to be clear and make sure that that was understood among all partners or stakeholders, what the plan does not do in terms of private property. And then we should also really be clear that it's not about etching in stone those lines on a map. So those are, adaptable, as we know that development and other pieces that call for alternative road corridors or changes or shifts in ownership, or a lot of things could be contributors to how those lines on a map need to be adaptable. So wanted to be clear about things being fixed or not fixed. In this case, they are not fixed. And then lastly, the plan is not meant to be a barrier to development. Instead, as mentioned earlier, this is really a tool to help increase the connections and collaboration between the borough and residents and the developer community. So in that way, the steering committee is representative of those different voices, including road service area commissioners. And similarly, this process is really about that and ultimately the plan. So you can find, again, all this information is on the website, and we're going to highlight that here in just a moment. But first, Molly, if you want to take us to the next slide, where I'm going to hand the microphone to Kellen to share with folks some really clear examples of like, how do we get from those lines on a map to actual roads within your local neighborhoods and your community. A couple of examples of how that's worked. And so Kellen, with that, I'll hand the microphone your way.
Thanks, Shelley. My name is Kellen Spillman. I'm the Deputy Director of the Community Planning Department. I've been with the department for about 10 years now, and before I was Deputy Director, I was the Transportation Planner, and quite a bit of my career was helping to implement the comprehensive road plan. So I wanted to just spend a little bit of time going over the current plan and some of the examples so that everyone could get a little better understanding how the borough implements the existing road plan. Next slide, please. The first road plan came about in 1991, and it really was as a result to some issues the borough was running into with development not being kind of properly planned out. It was really kind of one subdivision at a time without a lot of thought into where a road would go or how a road network would be developed in the area. And there were a lot of private property conflicts that kind of arose from this, that a subdivider wouldn't necessarily give his neighbor behind him access to his subdivision because he wanted a cul-de-sac, a lot of dead-end roads. And so in the late 80s, the borough started a process to develop the first road plan that really planned out more comprehensive subdivision road networks. It's a pretty big process. There were a lot of public meetings associated with that. And at the time, there just really wasn't particularly good geographic information available. We didn't have a lot of very good information on the time of topography or soil conditions. So I will recognize, and I'll go through some examples here that you'll see that some of our planned road corridors from that 91 plan weren't necessarily carried out or slightly shifted when it was a little too steep or ran across permafrost. So I want to go through my first example. If you switch the slides, please. Just go ahead and keep it here for a second. So this is Western Fairbanks in 1949, and it's almost unrecognizable. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, you see the Chena River, and that little building you see on the side of the Chena River, kind of the one by itself, is the pump house. So essentially, Western Fairbanks was essentially undeveloped in the 40s and really into the 50s too, and started to develop more into the 60s with Chena Pump Road, Chena Ridge Road being developed. But kind of the infill of the subdivisions didn't necessarily happen till the late 80s and early 90s. We go to the next slide, please. So this is the existing road panel, the existing area from that original 1991 plan. And you can see in blue all the parcels that were there at the time, and all those red dots you see on the map, those were the road corridors that were ultimately planned through this 1991 plan. And I'm going to go through a couple of examples, but many of these road corridors were actually developed as particular property owners came in one at a time. They would dedicate the portion of the road across their property and build it as an aspect of their subdivision. And then the next property owner who was developing their land had the road built to their property, and that property owner would dedicate and build the land. And it gets us to, if you would go to the next slide, please, where we're at today. So this area is, again, Western Fairbanks. You can see the pump house up on the upper kind of right-hand side of the screen. Chena Marina is the big kind of runway there in the middle with the water. But this is what it looked like in 2012, and it's actually even developed a little bit more. We've had several large subdivisions in this area since 2012. But so many of these road corridors were planned out through that 1991 plan. And I want to go through one really good example. If you go to the next slide. This is that first photo I showed you, that 1949 photo where there's nothing there, and the existing alignment at Chena Point Avenue on top of that. So Chena Point Avenue was planned out. If you go to the next slide, please. During that 1991 planning process, you can see that this really was just a line on the map at the time of where it logically made sense, or the community thought it made sense to put a road. That road was planned out through the public process in 1991. You can see Chena Point Avenue, it veers slightly to the north and then loops back and links up to an existing subdivision at the time, Ridge Point Avenue, to create kind of a well-connected through road network. And that really was planned in that 1991 plan. And if you go to the next slide. And since that plan in 1991, almost every one of those property owners has come in for a subdivision and subdivided their property. The first property owner was the University of Alaska, and they subdivided that first lower portion and dedicated and built Chena Point Avenue. And since that time, we've had 5 larger property owners actually come in and dedicate and build that portion of Chena Point Avenue that was originally planned out in 1991. And there's just one property owner that has not come in to subdivide to create that ultimate through linkage that was originally planned. If you go to the next slide, this is a really good success story in my mind, because getting this section of roadway actually dedicated and built through that subdivision process didn't cost the taxpayers of the borough any money. It was built as an exaction of those subdividers, of kind of a cost of doing business of building and dedicating that road. And now Chena Point Avenue is one of the busiest borough roads that we have. The traffic volumes have grown almost every single year. We're up to almost 1,000 vehicles a day, and actually DOT's in the process of putting a turn lane because this road has gotten so busy onto Chena Pump there. But I think it's a really good example of a road network that was planned, and rather than doing it one subdivision at a time, it was planned and developed based on that 1991 plan. This isn't always the case. Sometimes the borough does run into corridors that were planned that just can't be developed. This is an example. I know it's a really zoomed in small example. It's also in that Chena Ridge area. This was a Heather Drive, a road connection that was planned to connect 2 dead end roads in the Chena Ridge area. But because I mentioned before, there wasn't very good topography information at the time, it looked like, based on the information that they had in 1991, that this connection could be made. But ultimately, when this subdivider came in and surveyed the area, it was going to be much, much too steep of a road. It was going to be well above a 10% grade and bordering on, a little bit dangerous. It didn't meet the engineering standards. So this is an example where the borough and the subdivider did deviate from this plan. So we hope now in this planning effort that we have much better information, that we don't run into situations like we ran into in this case, on Heather Drive. And I do just want to use one kind of final example here, if you'd go to the next slide. Badger Road is a really good example. Shelley did speak a little bit about the functional classification of roadways. Functional classification is a fancy word we use sometimes as the purpose of the roadway. So you have purposes of roadways. Go back to the last slide, please. Roadways a lot of times are used to carry a lot of vehicles a day. So a lot of traffic, like the Johansson Expressway, the purpose of that road is to move a lot of vehicles. And a lot of neighborhood roads, you don't necessarily want moving a lot of vehicles. Your local roads, you want to have a lot of driveways on there, kind of slower, safer roads that you have access to your home or different businesses sometimes. Badger Road was an example of a road trying to do too many things. There were a lot of driveways on Badger Road, and there was a really high speed. It was moving a lot of vehicles. And typically when a road tries to do everything, you can expect a lot of crashes. And that's actually what we had. If you go to the next slide, please. There was a big study of Badger Road in 2015 because there were a higher amount of crashes on Badger Road, as well as a pretty serious fatality that had occurred there in 2015. So the DOT did commission a study on Badger Road. And if you go to the next slide, please. And one of the findings of the study is engineering wise, it was a fine road. It was wide enough. There weren't dangerous curves, but there were a lot of driveways. There were actually 210 driveways on Badger Road and a higher speed limit on Badger Road. So Badger Road's kind of an example of a road that was trying to do too many things. And this is what I talk about in functional classification, that we classify certain roads. So if a road is classified as a major collector road, which will come out of this project, that you wouldn't be allowed to have a driveway onto that road as part of your subdivision. So that's the second aspect of this project that we'll be talking about, and hopefully aiming to avoid situations like we have developed into Badger Road in the future, really through this planning process. And that concludes the examples I have right now. I want to turn it back over to Shelley to talk about really how you can be involved in helping to kind of streamline how this plan's going, which road corridors are going to be built, and how the roads are going to be classified.
Thanks, Kellen. So we do have another poll for you. So we're going to bring that up on the screen, and you're going to see that momentarily. But first, what is that poll going to be about? So hopefully folks can see the question that we're about to launch, which is really getting your response to how you define a safe and well-connected road system. So when you think about that, especially for your local roads, your neighborhood roads, what are the three most important aspects for you? So you can see several different options here, but I'm going to put that up on the screen poll style. And here it comes, everyone. So look forward to getting everybody's response. So you have an opportunity, you can select 3 items. Hopefully everybody can see that poll okay, and looking forward to getting your feedback. You can see some responses starting to come in. I know this is a little bit of a thinking question, so it may take us a little bit longer than some of those earlier questions. Okay, it looks like we got 16 of 19 folks so far. Okay, let's see what folks have to say, because we're excited to ask you the next question too. So here we go. Here are our results. So what you should see on the screen, and hopefully everybody sees that visibly, looks like coming in as I scroll down here, because there's a lot of different opportunities. Maybe not surprising to us is road maintenance, so repairs and improvements as one of those key factors in, as you think about safe and well-connected road system. What else starts to rise to the top? Well, right, not too far behind that is our friend winter road maintenance. So maintenance clearly coming to the top, but other things that had similar rankings. I see traffic flow, speed, and then one here at 25%. There was others. So would be curious if you selected other, if you wanted to throw those into the Q&A for us, we'd be excited to see what your responses were there. If we didn't cover something that's on your mind that should have made this list. And then definitely see that folks said width of lanes and shoulders. I didn't mention that earlier. So a range of feedback there. So thanks everybody for your responses. We do have a next question for you. And because we're really curious to learn more about examples of potential roads that really have some of those characteristics that we were describing earlier, we've got a question for you about if you could build one connecting road anywhere in the borough, what and where would it be? So we would be excited to get your responses to that in the Q&A. So let's see those responses, folks. What do you think? If you could build one connecting road, you're thinking about how do I have a better, a more connected, a safer, well-connected road system in the borough, where would that be? That Q&A is open for your responses. Would love to see those. Thanks, Floyd. See Miller Hill Road to Miller Hill Extension. Other examples of connections that folks would like to see? And maybe this just gets the creative juices flowing, because the good news is the questions we've got up on the screen for you tonight are also available questions to you in this survey. So, so we can cover some of our other key pieces, including how you can get access to that survey. We'll keep cruising along here. So maybe just a little step back into terms of what do we learn so far. So we have been at this since the spring, and so wanted to just be clear that we've definitely been learning things along the way, and including some of that, snapshot of existing conditions and better understanding what the landscape looks like now. So we do have a sense of kind of estimated miles of road by ownership in the borough, and you can see that displayed here. Folks might be wondering, what is this thing, orphan roads and RSA roads? So RSA roads are roads that are within a road service area. Orphan roads are roads that are not within a road service area. So we've definitely heard a lot of feedback from the steering committee and other folks along the way about this road service area topic, because that does have implications for what types of improvements and maintenance happens on your local neighborhood roads. So that is some of the information we're starting to gather, get a better understanding of the current road system. And then we have had a chance to do some interviews with steering committee members, and we just wanted to share a quick snapshot of what are some of the things that we've heard from steering committee members and others so far as we've ask them questions about what are the biggest challenges for the road system for you? What are your biggest concerns? What would you like to see in a roads plan update? And you can see that thematically, some of those things include some of the topics we've already talked about, like safety and emergency access. So you can see some folks saying, you know, safety is really at the top of my list as a big priority. You can also see from the business owner perspective, you know, we're using these roads all the time, but we're on a lot of non-maintained roads. For us, there's a business implication or economic implication that we're destroying a truck while we're trying to get back there and provide service to our customers. And then you can see this perspective of that single access point, which can make it a real big challenge for our fire and safety friends when they're trying to get into a location, into a home to provide service as well. And you can see like a fun characterization of what that can feel like when you're stuck in some of those areas and trying to get out. Some other things that we've heard from steering committee members that we wanted to mention are things like road network functionality, connectivity, efficiency, maintenance. And so we saw that maintenance was a big topic for the folks that have joined us this evening. We also heard a lot about maintaining the road maintenance, and then also maintaining the existence. Related to that is before you build any other roads, maintaining the existing system is really a big priority. And then also points about access, and also points about, you know, things are not really built to any standards currently. So is there an opportunity to think about that and plan better connections and safer connections? And then one more for you, just in terms of what we've heard from folks so far, that some of the challenges to making the 1991 plan a reality, we need to be thinking about those as we think about the development of the 91 plan. So some of the things that were proposed road corridors, and Kellen actually highlighted some examples of those were not necessarily realistic, or we didn't have all the factors in front of us, including topography and other things. So they're really unrealistic corridors. And then also, like, just in terms of the changes that have happened in with what happened in the borough and that are projected to change, including population changes and other development, does the 91 plan really have, you know, too much flexibility? Is there an opportunity to really better respond and adapt to what's going on? And then just a thought or perception that folks are resistant to proper road standards. So is there an opportunity through this process for education and thinking about together, like how to make for effective road systems that really meet everybody's needs? So those are just some of the thoughts that we've heard so far. And now back to the good stuff, where we'll throw this out there again as a request, and also understand that this is a survey question in the formal survey that we've launched. So if you're not excited to share tonight, we look forward to your responses in the future. But for you, is there an example of a road that exists today that you would say, you know what, that's a good road? That's an excellent road because it's well connected, it's safe, it has the right type of access. What road would that be? And I think that's important for our team, for the steering committee, as we think about future roads. If you describe a road as a good road or an excellent road, then we have a better sense from the community of what that looks like in your minds, and what, you know, how that aligns or maybe doesn't align with really ultimately what is the safest and most well connected. So we're excited to get your input on this type of question and its counterpart. And maybe this is easier for you to respond to. We definitely heard a few examples from some of our steering committee members, examples of a poor or very poor road in your neighborhood. So that Q&A is still open if you have thoughts about either of those things. So I see a couple of things coming in. So I see Chris had said earlier, connect Chena Pump Road with Airport Road near the Princess Hotel. And I see Max's comments, maintaining connected public land is a consideration in the comp road plan. Thank you, Max, for your comments. And then I see Colin submitted a comment, hands way near the example that Kellen provided. Okay, great. So we're excited to get additional thoughts too, as you're thinking about, we mentioned earlier, better connections, good roads, poor roads, excellent roads. Those will be ongoing questions as we go through this process. So we really want to make some time for a couple of other exciting things. Thanks, LJ, for your comment too, seeing that. Thank you. Old Nenana Highway seems to be an excellent road. Great. So let's take a look at a couple of other opportunities, but before we do that, we're really curious to get your feedback on this question, ongoing question and point of curiosity. So we'll ask this question of you. You've got another live poll coming your way. Here it comes, folks. Last poll question for you. You should be seeing that right now. Do you live within a road service area? Thanks for your quick responses. And thanks for just telling us that you don't know. We appreciate knowing that as well. Okay, let's see what folks have to say. So it looks like we've got, wow, 12 folks that responded, or 80% of the folks that responded said yes. A couple of you said no, and at least one of you said don't know. So we're going to continue to ask that question through the survey and other tools and get a better sense of where folks are positioned or how they think they're positioned within the borough. So we want to continue our sharing here to just touch on briefly what's happening with the public involvement, but mostly to share a survey opportunity and a comment map opportunity with you. So as part of the public involvement process, we really are doing quite a number of things, including this open house opportunity, but also the public survey and comment map I'm going to highlight this evening. We're having discussions with a lot of different groups, including technical experts and transportation leaders. We've had a series of interviews. We also have a project website. Very important, we're looking forward to meeting with and connecting with and doing work sessions with the borough's planning board, the planning commission, and the assembly. So we have some dates slated actually in August to do that. And then also community meetings, and this is where things get really exciting. Once we have a sense of some of what those maps are going to start to look like, and maybe potential corridors or other pieces, we have a chance to hopefully ideally meet with some of you in person to really share those. But in the interim, and maybe quickly just to share that there are a number of target audiences that include all community members and then all of the regional business organizations, state and federal agencies you see listed here, really critical key partners in this process. So I think we're super excited to share a couple of things specifically with you as we go towards the end of our time together, and wanted to spend a moment and not breeze through it too quickly on the critical tools that are out there right now. We have a project website, as mentioned. Hopefully many of you have seen that. You have a chance to click on the Get Involved link and actually sign up for project updates if you're not already doing that. But on the website, you will also find a link to the survey that I've been mentioning. And all of the questions that you've seen tonight are in the survey. So if you were shy about sharing your responses with us now, then there's a real opportunity there for you to share a lot. You could also directly connect with me, Kellen, or Brittany anytime throughout the process. But I think maybe one of the most exciting things we want to share with you tonight is the comment map. So the comment map is now live. You can find that on the website, but you can also actually find that right here with us tonight. So I would love for my good friends, Molly or Aubrey, to put the comment map link into the chat so folks can see that and actually can click on it if you'd like to. We're going to do a quick little demo here. You're going to see my screen change. Hold tight, please put your safety belts on, because we're about to go on an adventure into this live tool here. And I am going right to that link right now. And what you should see on your screen, I hope, so give me a thumbs up if what you're seeing is the comment map. Yes, awesome. What is that comment map all about? Wow. Okay, so it looks like since even earlier than earlier today, folks have started to weigh in on this. So this is pretty awesome. Okay, this is your opportunity to click on a place and share your feedback. It's also your opportunity to upvote or downvote someone else's suggestion or comment. So let's do a quick little demo. So this is just our instructions. I'll get out of that because that's the less exciting part. The most exciting part is the opportunity for you to do this. Okay, I'm going to go to Badger Road, or I'll stick on Badger Road mostly because I grew up there, and maybe a little neighborhood that's out in Badger Road. So I'll just click on that. And actually, I'm going to click on add a comment is our first task. And I want to talk about Badger Road. So I'm going to drag my little arrow over to Badger Road and then enter my comment. Okay, and I'm just going to say, for the sake of today, just a little test. And oh, sure, I'll share my name with folks and then hit the submit button. So that is submitting right now. And folks, if you're in this with us right now, we should actually be able to see you loading your comments. But what you can see here is now I've got a little comment here. I can click on that and see that I could agree or disagree with that comment. So here's an example of I am agreeing with that test comment, or I'm disagreeing with that test comment is another option. So you can see here on the far left column that folks are starting. There's a couple of tests in here of our team kind of testing out and checking things out, but already we're starting to get feedback at different points across the borough. So we would be super excited to have your feedback. You can click on and take the public comments off or on, the future corridors off or on, the borough boundary. Other things that you may be interested in, you can click here to check out the comments this way, and you can also search and sort the comments. So we just really wanted to get your see and give you the opportunity to see this up close and personal. And you can see you can choose different base maps to get a different view if you so choose, and you can get a sense of what that looks like. So we just thought, hey, let's test it out and share with everybody. And this is maybe even more fun, kind of close and personal, and gives you more of that topography and maybe something that you're more used to looking at in a base map. So that is our exciting comment map tool, and that is just officially launched. So we're certainly really excited to get your feedback on that. We have just a couple of final comments as we wrap up here. But more than anything, we wanted folks to feel excited and to participate in both I'll plug it again, the survey, where many of the questions we asked tonight are in the survey, and more opportunity for you to provide feedback, and the comment map, which is here. And if you forget what those links are, all of it is on the project website. And so just maybe quickly, a couple of next steps, which we've shared already in part, which are really continuing to do the kind of community engagement that we've started here, will actually be gathered at the fair in August. And so there will be a borough booth. There are multiple projects happening in the borough right now, planning projects, and the roads plan is one of them. You'll have an opportunity to stop by, and we are talking about doing some exciting things like giving you the opportunity to click and use this comment map, and then use regular old school hard copy maps if you so choose to provide your feedback as we continue this process of hearing from the community about, where and what types of connections, what's working or not working with your local roads and neighborhoods. And lastly, I just wanted to hand the baton back to Kellen or Brittany to share any final comments or questions they have for the group. As we share just a final slide to say, please check out that website where you're going to find that additional information on the survey, the comment map, future gatherings and opportunities. And then I would say you could email any of us directly, and then our phone numbers are there as well. So Kellen or Brittany, anything that you would like to share with folks before we wrap up?
Thanks, Shelley. I really do appreciate everyone coming, and there's a lot of really good feedback we've already received in the chat. I like the examples already of kind of future road corridors. Please stay involved. I'm going to copy and paste at the bottom of the chat the link to staying involved. You can put your email address there and get project updates. But again, we're just starting this process and look forward to working with everyone.
Thanks, folks. And we also appreciate your patience. So we didn't have our full friends joining us unmuted or showing everybody's video this evening. But we certainly look forward to future opportunities where we have a chance to meet face-to-face and otherwise. And as mentioned, that opportunity at the fair, we're excited that we'll have a booth there. And otherwise, the community meetings that we mentioned a little bit earlier in the public involvement, there's opportunities there too. And any questions about any of that, you've got our full information here, and we'd be excited to hear from you. So with that, and thanks for all the ideas, and I see a number of things being shared in the chat, including our project updates, and also, yeah, we want our website, so fnsbroadsplan.com. You'll see additional information there. So thanks for sharing that, Kellen. And thanks again, everyone, and look forward to additional input that you share. And if you're excited, didn't get enough of us in this hour, we'll continue and have another opportunity at 6 o'clock. And if you have family, friends, coworkers that live in the Fairbanks North Star Borough that live on a local neighborhood road, definitely forward that opportunity, and we hope to see them at our 6 o'clock meeting. Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you at future opportunities. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.